When I was 18, I was heading off to college. And for my birthday, my 18th birthday, my dad gave me a t-shirt. And on the front of the t-shirt was this, Machu Picchu, the site we're here to talk about and celebrate tonight. This is an image from 1911. And I had heard of Machu Picchu before, but I didn't recognize the guy in the back. This was the t-shirt my dad had picked up at the Peabody Museum of Yale, which is where Bingham eventually stored a lot of his artifacts. And this was Hiram Bingham. I'd never seen his image before, but he's striking. I mean, he's very tall, he's 6'4", he's handsome. He wears jodhpurs like the best of them. And as I got into college, I eventually came to understand why. It was very exciting to go to Yale University, where Bingham himself studied and where he did a lot of his work later on. And but I regret to say that I did not end up becoming an archaeologist. I had, as many people do their freshman or sophomore year, a crisis of sorts and started doing literature and history instead. But it brought me back to Latin America. And my senior year, as I was getting ready to write a senior essay, my advisor said to me, well, why don't you write on Yale's Indiana Jones? And he had me at that. Hiram Bingham, in a word, was a whirlwind. He was a force of nature. He was smart. He was deeply ambitious. He was a good organizer. He wasn't very good at staying in one place. He went to Phillips Academy in Andover and then on to Yale, where he was able to make a life for himself. He realized that he was very good at teaching his fellow students. He was extremely poor. They were extremely wealthy. He liked to read books. They liked to get notes from people who liked to read books. And he realized that he could be a teacher. However, it was very hard for him to do so because there still was a barrier of both wealth and prestige at Yale that he couldn't quite break through. Much like many of us fear and have, in my case, moved back to our parents' house after college. He moved back to Honolulu to be with his parents. However, he had also by then started to think about someone who would change his life and allow him to do many things that he wanted. He'd fallen in love with Alfreda Mitchell. And Alfreda was a kind, warm, and generous person that Bingham had met in his senior year of college. And with Alfreda, they got married soon after. They would have 7 sons. They came to live in a very large houses in Cambridge, where Bingham went to the University of Harvard University for his doctorate, and then in New Haven. Now, his decision to study history at Harvard was actually a fairly radical one at the time, because he wasn't doing European history, he wasn't doing US history, he was doing Latin American history. And he believed that he was the first person to ever be hired specifically to teach Latin American history in the US. Bingham believed that the US had a future in the region that would need experts like himself in politics and economics and history to lead. After a few years of teaching, he found himself getting anxious at being chained to teaching undergraduates. And he instead decided to embark on a new phase of his life and career as an explorer.